Merry Christmas. Isn't it wonderful? Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. We really enjoyed it.
Joyeux Noël à tous.
Welcome back to Country's Family Reunion Christmas. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have Christmas dinner with some of your favorite legends? Well, before this tape is through, you'll see what it's like to share a Christmas dinner. If you're ready for more, let's go back in.
You're talking about how poor you grew up. My dad hauled logs all of his life. And it was a hard life. You know, he could make $100 this week, and Monday, 2 tires would blow out on his trucks. And, you know, so he wound up with $25 that week. But I'd get more than some of you were getting. I'd get a little box of Sparkles. They cost a nickel, an apple and an orange. And one year I got a cap pistol. It shot one time, and I got a little roll of caps, a little box of caps, and you tore them off one at a time, stuck it in there, and shoot. But a little red roll. But Fulton Sneed, a boy whom I grew up with, his father was a dentist, well-to-do, could pay all of his bills in Osaka. But Fulton got a new train set, an electric train set. Well, I could go up there and I would stand around and I couldn't touch it. Somebody was saying couldn't touch it. And I hold my hands behind me and look at that thing. Well, I told my wife this years ago. And of course, I never got the train, you know. It was just a sad story. But on our 25th wedding anniversary, which was 40-something years ago, she bought me an electric train set, which I still have.
Oh, that's great. Play with it?
Yeah. Y'all can come over and play with it if you want to.
Jim.
I got a Cajun story about Christmas that's not so sad.
Good.
It's, I mean, you know, those are real stories y'all tell, and this is a real story I'm going to tell, except it wasn't sad except for the Cajun after he ate the gumbo. Because he played a Cajun dance, you know, a musician, and he came home that night, and he had had a few grease cutters, you know, during the dance, because it was customary. And so he came home and he heated the gumbo, and he had some, and he told his wife the next day, he said, honey, I don't know what you did, that gumbo sure wasn't seasoned much. So I didn't make any gumbo, that was the dishwater you indulged in. And this is a true story. And someone near and dear to us, it was his dad, I won't name him. It really happened. It made him sick. You got it closed.
Give Bill Carlisle the microphone there.
I just wanted to tell you that we were a poor family. My mother, we were so poor that she took in washing, and we kept it. Bill, let me say this. There's one thing about it, you know, when we was children, we're all from big families. 11 kids in my family, and they were all gone time, you know, I was grown up because I was the youngest one of the whole 11. And going to school, I couldn't wait for school to get out for the Christmas holidays, because I knew that day, as soon as I got home, and I had to run about a mile, maybe it's a little bit over a mile, to the house after the school bus dropped me off. And I couldn't wait to get there that day for me and Mama to go to the woods to find us a Christmas tree. And we went out and we found the prettiest one. At least we thought it was the prettiest one. And we'd take it home, and how she decorated it was put little red ribbons on it, white ribbons, blue ribbons, whatever color she, and got those pine cones and painted them all different colors. or what kind of paint you had, white, and some of them were even black, and some of them blue paint, and put them on there. And that was the greatest time of the Christmas that there was, you know. And then, it's like Tommy said, then I got an apple, a tangerine, an orange, and a piece of candy. And that was it. And that was the greatest times of my life, looking forward to cutting that tree.
I heard Jeannie Pruitt say paper chains. You make those in school? Because
yeah,
we
we
always
did.
did.
Oh,
Glue, you know. Well, we didn't always have glue. Mama would make up flour and water to make us a paste, you know. And then the kids would take their little scissors and cut them little strips of paper and paint them a different color with our crayons and pull them together, you know, and paste them and make a long chain, and that'd be part of the Christmas tree decoration. And popcorn we did.
Cranberries.
And we had somebody that
Cranberries.
smoked cigars in the neighborhood, and they used to save them little things that come around the cigars, and we'd save them, and anything that have a little shine to it, we'd hang it on the tree. I guess that's the reason I like shiny stage clothes today, because we didn't have much shine except at Christmas when we was kids.
Mac, what were you whispering over there? I heard something. Hand him the microphone there, Wilma Lee.
What did you say? Because you didn't have much shine?
Didn't have much shine when we was kids except at Christmas time. Yours came in a bottle, Mac. I know what kind.
I was just talking, yeah. We had some shine, but we drank it.
We drank it.
Hey, Billy. Billy Walker, didn't you spend some time in an orphanage?
Yeah, I did.
Well, were you ever in the orphanage at Christmas?
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, I spent 5 years in there. When I was 4, my mother passed away, and so my dad couldn't keep. He had 8 kids at the time, and he couldn't keep us all together. And so he put me and 2 of my brothers in the orphan's home, and I suppose one of the most memorable Christmases that I ever had. Because when you're in an orphan's home, you feel like the whole world has left you behind as far as love and being around family, and you're just there. And so one year, I got a football. Me and 2 of my brothers got a football between the 3 of us. And that's probably the most memorable Christmas that I ever spent, because before then, we really got nothing. And this fellow was kind of a philanthropist, and he got a Sunday school class to sponsor me and my 2 brothers, and we got a football for Christmas. And it's one of the most... 3 kids playing with 1 football doesn't seem like much to kids today, because they're spoiled to death. They don't know what receiving gifts is really all about, especially when you have nothing. But that was a good Christmas.
Great story. Gene, sing a song. Lead us, we'll all sing.
Well, as you know, my sinuses are, and at Christmas time...
That's your Christmas present.
I don't know. We done this on television last year, Bill. And
yes, and it was beautiful. I saw it.
I hope I can get through it. Everybody sing real loud to cover me up. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye, oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let
Did you guys grow up? Did you go to church on Christmas? No, Johnny grew out. Yeah. Did you go to church or some kind of a religious thing on Christmas Eve, or was that part of it?
Well, it was in Alabama where I was raised. You know, you'd always go to church for the Christmas celebration. And we used to have what the church people that run the programs would call a little Christmas cantata, you know, where everybody would get up and sing something, or they'd have a little program where the wise men, and kind of what you see now, you know, I suppose maybe on television, was things we did back then just in our little church, and everybody in the community would come. It'd be lots of fun.
Bill, I got to tell this. This was shortly after Christmas, but we didn't get to go to church every Wednesday and Sunday like we do now. We got to go once a month when the traveling preacher comes through at the schoolhouse. And I've got to tell, they said don't have that much to do with the Christmas, but it was wonderful. My mother would get us in there and she'd sock us down in them number 3 wash tubs and scrub us with that lye soap till the hide come off. It took it 3 days to grow back, and then she'd do it again. We had the Lord's Supper one night, and we had this wonderful preacher. I'll never forget him. His very common name, Brother Richard Smith. We loved this man, but he was wonderful. But he had a tendency to, well, he'd nip a little bit. Well, actually, he'd get drunk. But we loved him. And this one night, this is a few weeks after Christmas, we'd had the Lord's Supper, and he was leaving the schoolhouse that night, and he was in his old car, and he got to weaving, and the sheriff was behind him, and the sheriff pulled him over. The sheriff walked up there, and he pecked on his window and looked in and said, Brother Smith, you been drinking? Oh, no, Sheriff, you know me. Well, you know, the sheriff did know him. You know, he looked in the back seat and he saw them bottles back there, and he said, Brother Smith, what's in them bottles back there? He said, it's just water, Sheriff. It's just water. The sheriff grabbed one of them bottles and uncorked it, and he smelled it. He said, Brother Smith, that's wine in them bottles. Brother Smith said, oh, hallelujah, he's done it again.
She wouldn't put his own.
Oh, that was it.
Back.
In the spirit of right now, you know why the wise men were covered with soot, don't you? They came from afar.
Hello?
Tommy, you want to follow that?
That same preacher was driving down the road. And he turned the car over. And this fellow came along behind him, and he got out of his car and checked and said, you all right? The preacher said, oh, yeah, the Lord was with me. He said, you better let him ride with me, because you're going to kill him.
I was going to tell you, Jeannie, we went to church at Christmas time, and they always had a big Christmas tree decorated, and they'd always have gifts for all the children. And they'd hand out, Santa Claus would come, and he'd hand out the gifts, and of course we had church. It was where everybody got together and enjoyed it. And one more thing I want to say. Kitty sung about the jingle bells. My grandfather Leary had a sled, looked like one of them sleighs, and when winter come, Christmas time, and they got the big heavy snows, he'd fix hay in that sled, and then he'd put the bells. He had bells that he hung on the horse's harness, and hitch them up to that sled and ride us kids, us girls, all over the farm up there at Valley Head, West Virginia.
Bill, of course, everybody knows why we celebrate Christmas. And one of the great things that I remember from my Sunday school days, we had a Sunday school teacher named Mr. Charlie Addison. And in describing the time of Jesus 2,000 years ago, we had an old gentleman in Osaka named Mr. Johnny Ott. Everybody called him Uncle Johnny. He weighed about 100 pounds soaking wet, but he was close to 100 years old. And Mr. Addison described the time of Jesus being on this earth as 20 Uncle Johnnies ago. And if you stop and think about it, that's not very long, 20 Uncle Johnnies. That's about the only thing I remember from my Sunday school days.
Have you guys ever been to a Christmas Eve service where the preacher would light a candle and give a candle to every person there, and he would say, Jesus is the light of the world, and he'd light the candle, and you'd walk out singing Silent Night? I cannot do that without I mean, the tears come down. That's one of the most touching things at Christmas time to me, to all of us. To take that one candle and then suddenly see the whole church lighted like that.
Bill, it makes me mad when somebody, I love to get Christmas cards, and I hope everybody keeps sending them, but I can't stand it when they put Merry Xmas, because they're taking Christ out of Christmas when they do that, and that's not nice at all.
I think that's why Red Foley wrote, let's put Christ back in Christmas. I always think of him when I see that. I was going to say, I was thinking of John over there being a good Santa Claus, and Margot sitting on his lap all that while ago. It was so cute, and as we're talking about the church services for Christmas, I think everybody might remember Mary Lynch Jarvis, Chet's secretary, and dear friend, my best friend back then. And anyway, she's passed now, but she'd asked me to come out and sing at the church out in Franklin, and so they got this farmer he was going to stay out in the truck till time. He was going to be the one that would play Santa Claus, and he was a skinny man. So, but they just couldn't find one. I don't know where you were at the time, John, but I tell you what. Anyway, I was singing, and Mary was playing, and all of a sudden I was singing, "Here Come," and that was his cue when he heard me singing, "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus." He was supposed to come in with the bag over his shoulder and everything, you know, so he was coming in all right, but all of a sudden I could see the belt and the pillow was showing and everything, you know, and so I just ran down the church, and I was trying to hold him and trying to pull up his, put the pillow back and everything else. And anyway, he didn't know what was happening. He was just about to run over me to get on down there, you know, because he had the sack and everything. But anyway, that was one of the most wildest things, because everybody, all the kids were looking, and I was trying to pull his britches up and trying to get the pillow stuck back. And I said, I'll declare, I don't know how much I'll have to pay him, but I will find a fat man for next year, Santa Claus. And we did. But anyway, I think of that. But also, too, we always had, when we were talking about the dolls a while ago, I was sitting here thinking we do have a lot of similar stories coming from a time of the Depression and all of that. And so many times I feel like I'm so dumb. I've never been known to be quite so smart in this business. But I was sitting here thinking, as I listened to everybody's stories, I might be smart after all, because we've got such similar stories, and I put mine in a book for Christmas.
It's a wonderful book, too. It's a wonderful book.
And I just happened to have it. And hold it up and show it. And, but anyway, this little book, it's been such a joy, because in spite of the illness, I was able to do it. And as you know, Bill, you were kind enough to give a word of praise. But speaking of the dolls, the boys wanted the BB guns and all that, and the girls always wanted the dolls. And I was wanting a doll, and my story was that I wanted the doll so bad because I was going to be 10. My birthday's on the 30th of December. So it was always, you know, usually I never had a birthday party till I had the one, I think, at Opryland, where all you girls came with me. I was my 60th or something like that. But anyway, because it came so close to Christmas, it's always, you know, Merry Christmas. Oh, yeah, and Happy Birthday, too. But anyway, that never bothered me much. But that Christmas, I knew that if I didn't get the doll, if Santa Claus didn't bring it then, I was actually going to be too big, because I was going to turn 10, and I just knew that after you got a certain age, you know, more things went to the little ones, and it's everybody just didn't get everything. We got a wagon. We got the wagon all filled with the oranges and the apples, and we never saw oranges any other time till Christmas. But I didn't get the doll that year, but I got a note from Santa Claus, which thrilled all my brothers and sisters. Everybody was jumping up and down so excited over the note, and I didn't quite get it, really what it really meant. And so I went out in the barn and cried, and as I was out in the barn, I went back and told my father this later, but when I was in the barn, it's like I really did see an angel, and what I thought was an angel at the time, and I realized then that, and all the animals were all gathered around me. And I went back in, and I told my daddy, I said, I saw an angel in the barn. Daddy had thought my imagination was getting too much, but I truly knew. And the message that I got was that what it was really about. Oh, Jean's showing me that. But, oh, she says, read it. But anyway, it was, my fingers trembled as I reached for the paper, and with everyone watching, I carefully opened it, and there in plain handwriting was a message from Santa Claus. Dear Skeeter, I'm so sorry, but I ran out of dolls before I got to Dry Ridge. Santa knows so many little girls from all over the world who wanted dolls too, and the elves can only make so many. I hope you will understand. Love, Santa. But what I really learned in the barn was that what the real reason was all about, and it was the hope that I had, that as a kid that had the feed sack clothes, And to tell you the truth, more of my clothes came from a system they had in those days, what the government was called relief. You know, it was a relief system where they brought you new clothes. The boys got the same overalls, the girls got the same dresses. And I thought at that time, boy, I was just the height of fashion because so many people were copying me. You know, everybody had a dress just like mine. You know, but anyway, that's what I learned, I think, from that whole thing was that you do, and every child has that. And that's the gift that nobody else can give you or can take away from you. You know, that it wasn't in the doll, it's not in the train, and it is the one whose birthday we celebrate, Jesus. And he's there, and he's everywhere. And I got lots of dolls these days. I got 29 dolls just since this book has come out, and you know, Christmas ain't even over yet. You know.
It's a beautiful story, Skeeter, and a beautiful book from a beautiful person.
Yeah. I read it. It's great. I read it, Bill. I read it, and of course I cried.
Oh, thanks, Margot.
It's a beautiful book. The illustrations are beautiful in the book too. The drawings and everything.
Kathy Pelletier helped with that.
Did a
don't want to leave
tremendous
it out, but
job. Yeah. Do you guys? I'm sitting here, and you're talking about getting the dolls and everything. Do you guys get Christmas presents from your fans? Do fans send you gifts and all at Christmas time?
This is one right here. This is one from some of my fan club people right here. I had it on earlier today, and I wanted to show it because it is pretty. It's handwork, and it's all hand-drawn, and it's all hand-painted. And it's just a little denim shirt that they embellish and fix up, and it's got cowboy boots because she knows I love them.
Purina's right at the bottom, yeah.
It says Purina on it somewhere, doesn't it? Yeah. Santa Claus with a cowboy hat on. Jan Crum made that for me in my fan club.
I believe I got this one from a fan. It's a little dunce cap, folks.
Well, since the book came out, I actually got a group. Someone had just brought me. Sorry, Shep. Someone just brought me to the Opry a little barn and a doll for each kid. They got them named from the names in the book: Buddy, Pumpkin, Poochie, Doozer, and they really wanted to choke me from putting all their nicknames in there. Anyway, I hope I got them all: Buddy, Poochie, Doozer, Pumpkin, and Bose, and of course Skeeter. Yeah, and anyway, but they brought me this gift to the Opry and left it out at the guard gate. And it's like all the little dolls, different sizes with all our names on them, and the barn, and the dog, and the tree with all the popcorn around it. And they didn't even, you know, didn't even get to see them to say thanks, but it's a really nice present.
Well, country music fans, as we all know, are the greatest people in the world and the most unselfish people, and they share so much of themselves. And
Seeley makes birdhouses and gives them for Christmas gifts to some folks.
Yeah, I made Jeannie a little log birdhouse because she has a log house. I just want to say that y'all probably noticed that I never sing "I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas." I grew up in northwestern Pennsylvania. It was not a dream. We always had white Christmas and white Halloween and white Easter most of the time. But you know what? I'd feel so sorry for this whole group, everybody growing up poor, because I've always had everything. I've always been rich. I'm just now getting...
Her daddy bought her a Rolls Royce one for Christmas one time, and then she got mad because he sent the chauffeur home.
Yeah. She made that up.
Is that true?
I want to say that one thing that we did always have as a kid, we always had lots of puppy dogs and kittens, and that's still my favorite part, as most of you know.
You know, we've talked a lot today about receiving things, what we got as gifts and all when we were kids at Christmas time. I happen to know that this room is full of a lot of giving people, and there's a lot more to Christmas than receiving. There's a lot of giving to be done. I don't know if any of y'all know the story, and you may know it better than me, and if you do, jump in and tell it. But has anybody ever heard the story about the time that our friend George Hamilton IV was trying to get back to Nashville on Christmas Eve and got caught in this snowstorm up in around Louisville somewhere, I think, and it was so bad that the planes weren't flying, and the only way he could get back to Nashville at that time was on a train, because there was still the train that ran from Chicago to Indianapolis and Louisville and on into Nashville, I think. And George was caught in a train station, and it may have been Indianapolis, wherever it was, it doesn't matter, but he was caught there several hours outside of Nashville on Christmas Eve in a terrible snowstorm, and he said that there was a whole train station full of angry, very agitated, irritated people because they couldn't get home for Christmas, and they were griping and they were complaining. And George said he heard all that he could take, and all of a sudden he reached in and he got his guitar out. And he told him, he said, yeah, we're being inconvenienced, but he said, think back to the first Christmas Eve. He said, think back to when Mary and Joseph were in a stable attempting to have a baby, and what they went through. And he said, nothing that we're going through will compare what they went through on the very first Christmas Eve. And he took his guitar and he started singing Away in a Manger. He took that entire train station full of people, totally changed their mood. They got on the train, they were happy, and eventually everybody got home. But what a giving thing to do. Yeah, I wish George could have been here today. We invited him, and he's in England. Skeeter Davis has done some very giving things in her life. Tell about the time that you were so alone at Christmas, and rather than just wallowing in your own self-pity, you shared something with somebody special.
Well, this was in 1964, right after I'd been divorced, and I just came home from an overseas trip, and very lonely, and I'd even thought I might stay over there, but I thought, well, I don't know anybody over there except the ones I'd worked with. They had all came home. So anyway, I was very lonely, and I was sitting there. I fixed a big tree and had it out there in the middle of the floor and everything, and I thought, well, what can I do, you know? And it's like I really didn't even want everybody to know that I'd gone through the divorce. And so anyway, I lived pretty close to a Baptist children's home, so I decided I'd go up there and see if I could get a couple kids from there. And of course, they all wanted to come, but I got a couple young girls, 8 and 7 years old, and took them home with me and gave them Christmas. Went and shopped with them and shopped for them and had Christmas. And then going up there, I discovered that they didn't have a basketball goal in their gym. And everybody knows I love basketball and all that. Everybody that knows me, I'm a big Wildcat fan, and Vandy too. Bill, you see me, honorary coach for the girls one time. Anyway, so I bought a basketball goal for the gym, and I always got a big kick out of that. But I found out that year where I did always just been used to giving to my family, and maybe a few friends, but it was a family thing, and that year is when I kind of stepped outside my family and took in a couple of the girls. What was really neat about this was that just a couple of years ago, and this girl will be in her 30s now, but 35, I guess, but well, figure it up somebody. But anyway, she's a young lady married now, and she was visiting with Tom T. and Dixie Hall, and she started telling them the story. She said, well, I know y'all are friends with Skeeter Davis. She came and got me out of the Baptist home and had Christmas with her. And they called and told me that. Dixie called and told me that she'd been in their home. So that was it turned into a really good Christmas. And the saddest part was taking them back. I found that was just the saddest part, taking them back home. But I told all my friends to do that after that Christmas.
But for what you did for them, you did an awful lot for yourself, too, because you probably ended up feeling...
Yeah, it turned into a good Christmas.
Yeah.
The next year, I called my sister, and I said, bring your 8 kids and get down here. I can't, or else I'm going back to the home. I have to bring them all here, which she did. She and her husband and all of her 8 children spent Christmas with me next year. But I learned something. I've done that since then, but I know... I don't usually put those things in the news or anything, but I do that quite often.
No, because people who do that for the right reasons, they don't do it for publicity. They don't do it for people. I bet we can get some other stories like that. Margot?
I graduated from high school in 1957, and I was on some big board of our high school, and my dad had died. I was reared by an aunt and uncle. I was an only child and wound up with 7 brothers and sisters. Actually, the song called I'm My Own Grandpa is actually what I became, but that's another story. And the neat thing is that I know my real mother, and we have a wonderful relationship, and that's very cool. But we were supposed to take a gift, and I didn't have a gift to take, except this beautiful teddy bear that my boyfriend had won for me at the fair. And this was my first love. I was in love with this boy. But I looked at this teddy bear, and I thought, I've got to take something. Don't have the money to buy anything. It was beautiful, and it was pink and white. And I thought, well, I don't want to take it, but I'll take it. So I took it, and I walked up these stairs in this very poor part of town. And as I walked up and opened the door to give away the teddy bear, the little boy was blind. And he took the teddy bear, and he rubbed it, and he said, oh, I love this so much. And it was the greatest gift I ever gave.
What a story.
The scripture says that it is more blessed to give than to receive. And it says, whenever you give, it shall be given you, shaken down, pressed together, and running over. And the end of Grandpa's song, it says, the only thing that you'll ever keep is what you gave away, and so that's what we're giving.
The song Fallen Leaves. Dickie. Somebody hand Dickie a microphone so we can hear this real clear.
About 10 years ago, I was driving up 65 North one day, and it was in December. It was close to Christmas, and I saw this guy walking. He was hitchhiking, and he had on a T-shirt, and it had to be like about 25 degrees. So I really felt bad for him. So I stopped, and asked the guy where he was going. I picked him up. I said, "Well, let me, I took him back to my house." And this guy had been working on my gutters, and he'd left a couple of days. He'd left this really nice jacket there, so I gave him this guy's jacket.
So if the guy's watching today and he wonders where his jacket is, Dickie gave it away. He never came back.
You know, my son, I was trying to teach my son that it's better to give than to get for Christmas, and he looked at me and said, "Okay, I agree. What you gonna get me for Christmas?" One Christmas a few years back, I wasn't married at the time, and
which one?
I can't remember. And my mother had gone out to California to be with my brother and sister out there, and my sister, who works for me, had gone to her children's home, and my son was in the Marines, and he was overseas, and my daughter and her family were living in Texas, and hadn't been able to come up, and I was at home by myself, and I never felt so lonely in all my life. I guess I live by myself. I spend most of my time by myself, and I'm used to that. But at Christmas, it just felt so lonely. And that morning, my phone rang. Christmas morning, my phone rang, and it was Ferlin Husky, and he invited me to come over. He had found out I was by myself, and so Tommy Collins and I ended up over at Ferlin's house with their family, and all his kids were there, and it was really a big, nice Christmas to spend a day there with them.
Jan?
I don't know if I've told it. Some of y'all know it, and I don't think I've told this before about, remember the year that the Opryland Hotel gave us all a suite for Christmas, and we were invited to come and with our family or whatever and go to the Christmas dinner, the country Christmas and everything. Well, I took my two granddaughters, and we had a 2-bedroom suite, and the dining room in the middle and the whole bit. They were 7, I think, and 9 or 10, and they just loved it. We dressed up and went down for dinner and everything, and Anita, the youngest one, she really loved it because there was a phone in the bathroom. She could call all of her girlfriends. Well, we just loved it, and it was beautiful, and they were thoroughly enjoying it. Well, the next morning, I ordered room service for breakfast, and we were sitting at the dining room table in there, and they were looking out over this beautiful atrium and everything, and I was being very serious, because they were saying, "Man, this is cool, this is really good," and I said, "Well, don't get too used to it unless your daddy wants to pay for it, but I said, this is really great, and it was really nice of them to give us this gift." I said, and it's all wonderful, but you've got to remember what Christmas is really all about. And don't forget that, the birth of Jesus. Everything Anita was saying, Mitzi, the oldest, was saying, "Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am." But Anita was looking very serious, but something else, there's something on her mind. And she said, "Well, I know that, Jan. I know all that. We know all about what Christmas is about, but," and I told them that presents was not important, really. It was what it was all about, love. And she said, "But the day that I don't want presents," she said, "you take me to the nearest emergency room because I'll be very sick."
I'm with her.
Bill, we tried to tell our kids, hey, gifts is not where it's at. There's kids all over the world that a lot of them never get gifts, and a lot of them, go hungry. And one of my grandkids popped up and said, "Show me one." I felt like bopping him.
I was kind of like Johnny one year, 1969. I had just gone through a divorce, And I felt so bad because my children were very young. I had two daughters. One was about 7, maybe 8, and the other one was 4. And I was feeling like I was really neglecting them at Christmas. I felt like there's a big part of Christmas is missing because we're not together as a family. And my daughters came and stayed with me for a few days prior to Christmas. And of all the Christmas gifts they've ever given me, this is the greatest gift they ever gave me. I was tucking them in bed on the night of December 23rd, and I was feeling so bad, like I had really let them down. And my littlest one looked up at me and she said, "Daddy, we are the luckiest kids in the world." And I said, "What do you mean, why?" She said, "Because we have 2 houses where we're loved." We have 2 houses where we're loved. Skeeter, sing us a song.
Well, let me get over that first, because I think there really is something in that.
What a gift,
and when
yeah,
that when they look at it from that perspective, too, that's a wonderful thing you just said there. It's 2 houses where they're loved. Well, we were going to do another little boogie song, but then I was talking with your band over there, and this is an old song, one of the first ones that I sang.
It's Jimmy Dickens'
Yeah,
band.
Jimmy, and I hope Jimmy's got this one down over there. I know he'll know this one.
Don't worry about me.
Goes
I'm
back.
on top.
Yes, he's right. He is right on top of everything right there. Even if he ain't got on his pink suit today. And I guess, as all of you girls know to holler out which chord, I just have to say hit a chord over there. When I was just a youngster, Christmas meant one thing, that I'd be getting lots of toys that day. I learned a whole lot different when my mother set me down, and she taught me to spell Christmas this way. C is for the Christ child, born upon this day. H for herald angels in the night. R means our Redeemer. I means Israel. S is for the star that shone so bright. T is for 3 wise men, they who traveled far. M is for the manger where he lay. A is all he stands for. S means shepherd's cave, and that's why there's a Christmas day. Yes, that's why there's a Christmas day. I learned that from Eddie Arnold. Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Thanks.
You had a pretty good background singer over there,
Thank
Kitty
you
Wells.
there. High price, I'm telling you. That's when I've sung with the best right there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Let me just say one thing, how Christmas affected an old friend of ours, Farron Young. When I was single, like Johnny Russell, one of the times that I was single, and I was living on the premises of Mr. Young's mansion, close to you, Bill, out there on Harbor Island and the good old Cumberland River. And I got a phone call the day before Christmas, and he said, Kilgore, this is your old war buddy, Johnny. I said, how you doing, Mr. Cash? He said, how's the sheriff treating you? I said, oh, we're getting along just fine. We're planning a big Christmas. He's going to do the cooking. And I said, well, he said, are you just going to have Christmas alone, you and the sheriff? I said, well, my girlfriend Judy and Barron will have somebody. And he said, well, I'd like to break the mold. We've never done this before. I'd like to invite you and your guests to have Christmas dinner at our house. We always have for the family. So when Farron came in, I told him, he said, are you kidding me? I said, no. He said, well, tell him we'll do it. It'll be a great honor. So we went out there, and we had the family at this big table, and he had at our plates little presents for Farron, my date, which is later my wife, and Farron and his date. Farron was so moved by that in his last will and testimony, he said, I want my ashes spread out over Johnny Cash's boat dock. And to this day, Johnny has a placard marking the spot where the ashes fell at his boat dock. Yeah. So that was a nice Christmas present.
I was going to say that Johnny, I found him to be one of the most generous men I've ever known. He came to California in 1958. There were no other hillbillies around except me and a couple of others, Gordon Terry and so on. And we lived neighbors out there. And I think probably the greatest gift I've ever received, and I still have it in my house, was one Christmas. We had Christmas together with the Cash family. And he brought me a huge amplifier with one of them double-deckers. It's got the speaker on top of it. I've still got it. But he was using it to play Christmas songs. He lived way up on a hill there in Casita Springs, and all the neighbors lived down below, you know. And he was broadcasting, and they complained. He's playing his Christmas albums, and they're complaining. So he just brought it up to me and gave it to me. It was PA system. I still got it. I'm very proud of it.
Mac Wiseman has been extremely quiet today, sitting there looking like one of Santa Claus's elves.
He's deceptive, isn't he? He's deceptive, isn't he?
Do you get, like Johnny was talking, do you get called Santa Claus?
Oh, yeah, I have occasionally. They never got away with it, but they've done it. Oh, I really have been impressed by what I've been hearing today, but in my Christmases were a very similar parallel in a lot of ways. Didn't know we was poor, but a lot of love there, and we was happy, you know, and some homemade toys and such as that, but can't remember of anything spectacular that's outstanding that would interest other folks other than just, they were all good. I can't remember a bad one. What makes me
Well, I know
pleased.
what would interest everybody, and that's a song from you.
Yes.
Oh, one of the great song stylists, any field of music.
I hadn't counted on singing today, but if you insist.
Oh. I've never known Mac when he didn't have a song. He probably knows more songs than anybody in the world.
Oh, you gonna be my mic stand, are you, buddy? Hold it over this way a little further. I'm gonna get some hot licks in you, all right? Oh, this is one of the first ones I remember learning years ago. Away in the manger, no crib or a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the poor babe away, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my cradle till morning is nigh. Away in the manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus lay down his sweet head. The stars in the sky look down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the poor babe away, but little Lord Jesus no crying he made. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my grave
there a couple of different melodies to that song? Now, I've sung that song to a different melody.
Really?
Yeah.
How did yours go?
I'm
manger, no crib for a babe. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay.
Wait a minute, I like Mike's better.
Little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay.
Okay.
No, we're not saying one's right and the other was wrong.
That's your Mac.
Peter's taking votes.
I think Mac did the West Virginia version. I like
Hey,
Mac's the best.
You know, you talk about Mac knowing a lot of songs, and he knows just about every song and knows a lot. And one night at Oz's house, Mac and Chet Atkins were singing songs back and forth and going through old songs. And Chester surprised me. I knew you knew a bunch, but Chester surprised me.
He absolutely knocked me out. I remember those old pop songs. I did a lot of pop disc jockey work back in my early days in radio and around. And to me, when I was growing up, Bing Crosby and Wilf Carter had network shows back to back, and I enjoyed them equally as well, you know. But we're sitting out there at Oz's place. I was afraid I wasn't going to get invited back because I was the last dog hung. I'd just stay there after everybody was gone. But anyhow, I was singing some of those old songs, and Chet was picking them, and I'd know a verse or a chorus or something, and he'd fill me in with the words. So I asked him, I said, I knew you could pick them, but I'm amazed at how many of them you know the lyrics to. And he said, well, I had to learn the lyrics to them to know how to pick them good. So that made a lot of rationale to me.
Talk about Chet liking to sing. He made some records singing early in his career. And I ran across one of them one day, and I picked him up at the airport. And the Limelighters were on the same flight with him, so he invited me to take them where they wanted to go too. He just offered my services, which he would do to me all the time. And so they got in the car, and he's sitting in the back seat right behind me, and I just bought me a new Chevrolet. And he turned to the one that was sitting there back in the back with him, and he said, I'm sorry that we're having to ride like this. I have a Cadillac. And the title of that song that he had recorded was I May Be Colorblind, But I Know When I'm Blue, which I thought was one of the worst titles I've ever heard in my life. So I just looked up in the rearview mirror, and he didn't know I'd heard this, and I said, I may be colorblind, but I know when I'm blue, and he shut up.
Speaking of Chet, he does. I spoke with Chet's sister last night, Billy Rose, and Chet is, you know, we've all known that Chet's been ill, but he's doing well, but he just wasn't quite well enough. But I'm glad that y'all thought of him, because I was supposed to tell you that he sends his regards, and he knows that this, and the words were, this would have been better for him than anything, but he just wasn't quite able to make it today.
I'll tell you,
he does send his regards.
One other thing about Chet, I talked to him last week, but his daughter, Merle, married, and her last name was Russell. And she married, and she had a son, and she named the son Jonathan. And Chet is standing there looking in the crib, and he said, Merle, why did you do that? She said, do what, Daddy? He said, why did you name that child Jonathan? She said, well, I love the name Jonathan. He said, do you know what they'll call that kid when he gets grown? She said, yeah, Daddy, they'll call him Johnny. Oh, God, Daddy, I'm sorry.
I wonder how many of you know that Chet's hobby is comedy. And Chet and I have run around together, especially back in the early days. And I know a lot about him privately. But one of his great loves in the world is to study the comedic art. That's why he loves Homer and Jethro and all you guys so much. Because those little offhanded things that he does are not accidental. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and he gets great laughs. He told me something about his sister one time, right after his father died. Now, bear in mind that Chet makes this stuff up and he puts you on. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not really true, but he gets you going and you think he's telling you the truth. And I went over to his office. I said, Chet, I knew your dad. A lot of people around here didn't, and he was a wonderful little man. He said, Yeah, said they ran Daddy's well in the office over in Knoxville last week. I said, well, I'm sure sorry that he's gone. I said, well, when we was little, he used to hurt us. I said, what are you talking about? He says, when he'd get mad at one of us, he'd tell us we wasn't his. I said, well, Chet, is that really true? I said, how do you know that? He said, well, he gave Jim a farm, said he give me a house, give Billy Rose $1. We finally found out which one it was.
Oh, God. Oswald.
All been talking about hospitals and nursing homes and everything. You haven't lived to go on a trip with Uncle Dave Macon. Everybody knows Uncle Dave Macon, I hope. All right. We played a nursing home here in the city, Nashville. Roy and all of his boys and Uncle Dave Macon went out to the nursing home. We played. We done our part, and Roy introduced Uncle Dave to come out. Uncle Dave walked down on the stage, and he looked at him. They had shawls all around them and bent over and, you know, sleeping and everything else. Everybody worked in nursing homes. And Uncle Dave said, well, I may be a little old and ugly, but I don't feel a damn bit lonesome here today.
Dale, that's a tough act to follow, but I think you've got a song.
Oh, Lord. Well, yeah. You've been talking about elves. I didn't happen to have a song.
Oh, he's talking about Elvis.
No, you're talking about a few minutes ago about little elves. Oh. You said Mac Wiseman looked like an elf.
You sure he said elves?
Can I use your guitar, Bill?
Sure. Dickens said don't look at him when you talk about that.
No, he's the leader of the group. You know, you don't... That's right. Because this is about a little elf who lived way up in North Pole. And he was called Sajo. Give me your pick. You got a pick? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. This is a good one.
Your band leader's ready.
We're ready?
Start him off, Jimmy. He's already started him.
All right. There's a little old elf way up north, living at the cold North Pole. He's a big help to old Santa Claus. They call him Little St. Joe. On Christmas Eve he can be found trotting through the snow, rounding up the reindeers, hitching up the sleigh, shining little Rudolph's nose. Say, Joe, Santa's little heifer, keeping an eye on the flock. He never gets mad 'cause all the other elves are working in the big workshop, slipping and a sliding and a jumping for joy. The only job he knows is rounding up the reindeers, hitching up the sleigh, shining little Rudolph's nose. Say, Joe, Santa's little shepherd, keeping an eye on the flock. He never gets mad 'cause all the other elves are working in the big workshop, slipping and sliding and a jumping for joy. The only job he knows is rounding up the reindeers, hitching up the sleigh, and shining little Rudolph's nose. Yeah.
Well, I guess you through.
Yeah, I did, baby. Thanks for all them mics, folks.
Well, that one kept going out. Was just trying to help you.
Well, I may have to sing it again. I don't mind.
We had you in stereo, 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 stereo.
Yeah.
That's a cute song. Did you write that?
No, we did not. Take it away.
You don't have a microphone now.
No, you'll know the guy that did, though, because he wrote it the same place you did at one time, Hank Mills.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
He wrote your Girl on the Billboard.
Girl on the
didn't he?
Billboard, yeah. I did 8 or 10 or 12 songs, whatever it was, of his.
Jan Howard's got a song written by a struggling songwriter named Irving Berlin.
Yeah.
Whew. He wrote a few. come over here and do this one. This is one everybody can kind of join in on, and I'm surprised we've gone this long and haven't done it yet.
I know it. It is. I know everybody sings a song and everybody's heard it a jillion times, but I still love to sing it, White Christmas. I can't help but think of my children each time I do. Everybody can sing with me.
That'll put you right in the Christmas mood.
Thank you.
Little Jim.
What?
What was Christmas? I'm not Jimmy Dean now, don't What was Christmas like at your house?
I'm so sad I don't even want to talk about it. Listening to all these poor people. I don't want to talk about it.
Would you wait till Thanksgiving next?
Really, now, you know what it's like in the coal mines. That's where I was raised, in the mountainous part of West Virginia. Had so many kids in the family, they knew they couldn't buy a present for everybody, so they usually sent me and fertilizer on a trip. We didn't get back till 4th of July.
Presents, won't it? That's too many not to buy presents for.
There's too many. No, we had a wonderful time. It's just like all the rest of you talking about the apples and the oranges, and you was glad to get them. That's where I came from, back in West Virginia.
Sing us a song.
Sing a song?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord help me. Boudleaux Bryant wrote this song. You probably never heard it. It was the flip side of a flop record I had.
I bet I have heard.
There is one thing for sure. If you're rich or if you're poor, there's no place like home on Christmas. The only thing the same is the date and the name. If you can't be at home on Christmas. Sometimes when I am dreaming, it all comes back to me. Our happy family around our Christmas tree, all gathered singing carols, as happy as could be. There's no place like home on Christmas. The fruitcake sure is fine, aged in Dad's old homemade wine. There's no place like home on Christmas, and no restaurant in this land makes a roast like Mommy can. There's no place like home on Christmas. That good old turkey dressing can't be equal anywhere. The pie is something rare. There's always some to spare. I'll bet that even Santa spends an extra moment there. There's no place like home on Christmas. There's no place like home on Christmas.
Nobody sings a ballad like Little Jim.
I've been having so much fun. I'm a little bit hoarse, and I know everybody knows about. They are the same, you know. Shepherd, you had. I was feeling for you, and I know you was feeling for me. Okay. Oh, this is
Me
fun.
and Jimmy was out together. Don't tell Mona and Benny.
Let me tell you why I've learned something here today about showmanship. You don't follow Kitty Wells singing Jingle Bells with some version called Bingle Jells. You take it by itself, it's pretty funny. Right, Jim? I used to do it in the theater, remember? But that's showmanship. You don't do that.
Well, do you think I'm going to follow Little Jimmy Dickens singing a ballad?
No way.
Not at all. We've got the same group here today that we had at our very first country family reunion, except two people are not here. And I know everybody joins me in missing our friend Justin Tubb and our friend Grandpa Jones. There's a big hole in the room because they're not here. And yet, you listen to that song, No Place Like Home at Christmas, and we know that they're in a better home. Grandpa made one of the greatest records, not only Christmas records. Grandpa Jones made one of the greatest records, I think, that's ever been made in this town or any other town. Dickie Lee was telling me a while ago he carries this around in his car and listens to it throughout the year. You don't wait till just Christmas time to listen to this. And I thought today, since we're missing Grandpa, that maybe we ought to just listen to what he did, the beautiful recitation that he did called The Christmas Guest, kind of as our way of having Grandpa here with us at Christmas time.
It happened one day near December's end. Two neighbors called on an old-time friend, and they found his shop so meager and mean, made gay with 1,000 boughs of green. And Conrad was sitting with face a-shine when he suddenly stopped as he stitched the twine, and he said, "Old friends, at dawn today, when the cock was a-crowing the night away, the Lord appeared in a dream to me and said, 'I'm coming your guest to be.' So I've been busy with feet astir, strewing my shop with branches of fir. The table is spread and the kittle is shine, and over the rafters the holly is twined. And now I'll wait for my Lord to appear, and listen closely so I will hear his step as he nears my humble place. And I open the door and look on his face." So his friends went home and left Conrad alone, for this was the happiest day he had known. For long since his family had passed away, and Conrad had spent many a sad Christmas day. But he knew with the Lord as his Christmas guest, this Christmas would be the dearest and best. So he listened with only joy in his heart, and with every sound he would rise with a start and look for the Lord to be at his door, like the vision he had a few hours before. So he ran to the window after hearing a sound, but all he could see on the snow-covered ground was a shabby beggar, whose shoes were torn and all of his clothes were ragged and worn. But Conrad was touched, and he went to the door, and he said, "Your feet must be frozen and sore. I have some shoes in my shop for you, and a coat that'll keep you warmer, too." So with grateful heart the man went away. But Conrad noticed the time of day, and he wondered what made the dear Lord so late, and how much longer he'd have to wait. When he heard a knock, he ran to the door, but it was only a stranger once more. A bent old lady with a shawl of black and a bundle of kindling piled on her back. She asked for only a place to rest, but that was reserved for Conrad's great guest. But her voice seemed to plead, "Don't send me away. Let me rest for a while on Christmas Day." So Conrad brewed her a steaming cup and told her to sit at the table and sup. But after she left, he was filled with dismay, for he saw that the hours were slipping away, and the Lord hadn't come as he said he would, and Conrad felt sure he had misunderstood. When out of the stillness he heard a cry, "Please help me and tell me where am I?" So again he opened his friendly door and stood disappointed as twice before. It was only a child who had wandered away and was lost from her family on Christmas Day. Again Conrad's heart was heavy and sad. But he knew that he could make the little girl glad, so he called her in and wiped her tears and quieted all her childish fears. Then he led her back to her home once more. But as he entered his own darkened door, he knew that the Lord was not coming today, for the hours of Christmas had passed away. So he went to his room and he knelt down to pray, and he said, "Lord, why did you delay? What kept you from coming to call on me? for I wanted so much your face to see. When soft in the silence a voice he heard, lift up your head, for I kept my word. 3 times my shadow crossed your floor. 3 times I came to your lowly door, for I was the beggar with bruised cold feet. I was the woman you gave something to eat, and I was the child on the homeless street. 3 times I knocked, 3 times I came in, and each time I found the warmth of a friend. Of all the gifts, love is the best. I was honored to be your Christmas gift.
You know, in some ways, we're very lucky that when we lose a friend like that, we never really lose them. How can you say he's gone when you can hear things like that he did? And we'll always have that. It'll always be with us. And if we ever want to think about Grandpa, which we'll always do, but we can always go get that and listen to it or see a video of him doing it, and he's always with us, and always will be.
The main thing to do for Grandpa is not forget Ramona and Mark and Lisa and Eloise. That's the main thing we can do for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He not forget to.
Well, you know, Ramona told me the other day that, I don't know if you were ever out at the house when they would do those little pickings and things that they would have. She said she was going to try to keep doing that as long as people would come out and do it. And she asked me, she said, you think people will come? I said, you're going to have food, ain't you?
I wish that they would do it. I hope see the Opry. I think Bill's got his locker. And his locker at the Opry's right across from my locker. And Bill's going to have his locker, I believe, is the way I understand it. Grandpa's locker is right across from mine, so
Well,
we all feel that loss. I believe Bill's have that locker now.
Eloise said something to me when we passed and visited with her and Ramona and Lisa. She whispered into my ear and she said, Miss Jeannie, she said, don't you let those people at the Opry just throw Mama away now. So we got to keep that in mind. Hopefully the powers that be will invite her to bring her fiddle and Lisa to bring her dulcimer and come and play with Eddie Stubbs some fiddle and do some good things on the Opry and let her continue to be a part of it because she has been since I can remember and she should be forever.
well, and whenever she calls about those meetings, don't forget those, let's go, because that'll be an important thing to all of them. I never will forget, Lisa grabbed a hold of me and hugged me, and she said, I didn't want to put on black today.
No, oh, what a great title for a song. I didn't want to put on black today.
I wrote it yesterday.
I'm writing the back of it.
Is there anything or anybody you don't know a story about? Or any color?
Ramona said to me, and I had to be out of town on the day of the funeral, and I called her before I left. And the last thing she said to me was, she said, just promise you'll always be my friend. And that's what we need to remember. Just promise me you'll always be my friend.
You know, Bill, I think about, I talked to Ramona a couple of times, and each time I did, she said, I said, no, Ramona, we're going to be checking on you after the service, the week after, and the week after that, you know, when you go home and you're alone.
And she said, "Oh, please do." She said, "Don't let me go. Don't let me go."
Yeah.
And I think about us that are left behind. And I think about how sometimes we get, just to be honest, as a family, we love each other, but we get aggravated at each other so quickly. And we can see each other's faults so quickly. But yet, if we stop and look at what it's going to be like when we're gone, we're going to think about, we're going to be saying nice things about each other then. And I want us to all to each, well, yeah, but we'll be going on to be with the Lord. And I hope we all get to hear those things about each other now, and maybe we not be so hard on each other.
They might end the roses while I live.
Yeah.
Not after I'm gone. Too late.
Fred, what was Ramona's mood today and all when you talked with her? And tell us a little bit about that, because I know you called her.
I asked her how she was doing, and she said, I make it pretty good through the day, but the night's awfully hard. She said, this is an awful lonesome place at night. And that Eloise had been over to stay 2 or 3 nights with her, and Alicia had come and stayed, and somebody else, I think, Rose Maddox, maybe? Rose Maddox, I think, stayed a couple of nights. Rosalie, yeah. Rosalie Mayfield, I'm sorry. Yeah, anyway, she said, don't you all forget me now. And I said, well, honey, we're not going to forget you. We love you, too, you know. And she said, well, you know, you meant so much to Grandpa. Excuse me. Grandpa didn't have a lot of faith in himself a lot of times, you know. And so when we were going to do the Christmas guest, I didn't tell him what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. He just knew he was coming down to read it, you know. So when he arrived at the studio, he said, am I early or late? And I said, well, you're neither one. What? He said, well, it's the wrong day then. And I said, what are you talking about, Grandpa? He said, I thought I was supposed to record. I said, you are. He said, when? I said, now in a few minutes. What have they been doing? I said, waiting on you. The whole orchestra. He didn't dream of that, see. And he said, I ain't never been so outnumbered in my life. and he pulled me over in the corner and he said, now are you sure you want to do, you think I can do this? I ain't very good. And I said, Grandpa, you're not very good. You're very great. And don't you ever forget it. He said, well, you're just outrageous. He did that in one reading. Once. We ran it down a couple of times to get the balance and everything. And it's hard to do that thing, that tempo, man. It really is. But that's the only tempo I think that it works. And I had to keep slowing it down. And finally he said, Hal, I believe that'll do. And he read it right through one time. Masterpiece.
He would, somebody said a while ago, said the only person Grandpa ever got mad at was himself. Exactly. And that's probably really true. He used to come up to me. He would want to do the Christmas guest on the Opry, but he couldn't remember all the words, and he would always say to me, how can you remember all them talking songs? I can't remember nothing. And he'd get mad at himself because he couldn't remember it. But that recording, Fred, that y'all did is like Johnny said, he'll always be with us through that, and that's a masterpiece for all time.
Well, he'd get mad at us if we didn't remember Ramona and them, so we don't want to make him mad.
There you go. They're cueing me and saying it's break time. Thank y'all. This has been a super morning, everybody.
We now have a special treat for you if you will follow me. Unita, Jack Green, Jeannie Pruitt, Jimmy Dickens, Brother Oswald. This is your Christmas meal. Look, Dan, you're right here. What this is? Margot. I'm going to find Margot. Margot right here. Vicky Lee's here. This is very special.
Oh my God. That's incredible. Ruthie, take a picture. Oh my goodness. Beautiful.
Find your place.
There's a high chair somewhere. Where there's a booster seat. Anybody see the one with the booster seat for Dickens? How many hours do they work on this? Is this wonderful? I just feel privileged to get to look at it.
The last time we were all together, both Justin Tubb and Grandpa Jones were with us. It's been a rough year. We've lost quite a few of our legends. But isn't it great that we've got these times and videos to remember? We've still got another tape to go, so if you finished your eggnog, it's time to freshen up, stand under the mistletoe, and put in another video.
Beautiful, Mercy. Look at that.
The silver's out?
Yeah.
Did you catch up on your sleep last night?
No kidding, it was a short nap.
Yes. Gene Shepard, Bill Anderson, Joe Allen, Bill Carlisle. Where is Jimmy C. or Jack Green? Where? Oh, there's Jimmy C. Okay. Jack Green? Jack Green, you're right here.
All right, great.
There's Gene Shepard, here's Bill Anderson, Joe Allison. Where is, somebody point out a Mac Wiseman. Over there, Mac.
Over there, all right.
Over there. You guys can be seated. You can be seated. You don't have to continue to stand.
Go help Steve Thompson. I need help, and I know he's sitting on that.
Okay, we'll get him. Bill Carlisle? Yes. Where's Shep Willie? I think he's sitting on the other side. Where's Shep Willie sitting?
Oh, ain't that? Oh, good. Look at that. Oh, great. Look at there. Oh, man. Ain't that nice, huh?
Yes, that is.
Yeah. That is nice.
It really is.
Huh?
Yes, sir. I was
The first two are gone.
Yeah. Grandpa and Justin.
Yeah.
Right there. Carol Lee is over here. Carol Lee's over there. You're down here by Fred Paul.
Oh, God, this is so great.
So nice. I kept wondering where to take the picture.
Me too.
Your tater.
Yeah, I saw that.
With his guitar.
With that guitar.
Leave your orchestra.
When you
Where's Mark Taylor? Marlon Kilgore.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Boxcar talking on the telephone.
I know, it's great.
Hey, everybody. Here. May I have everybody's attention, please? We've all had the opportunity from time to time to do television shows, to be invited to special functions and all, and they all think that the money that they give us makes the difference and makes up what we come for. But today I have finally seen somebody that has taken the bull by the horns, and he's giving a little more than the money. He has given us something or other that we can take home with us and we can appreciate and love, and I appreciate that. To Larry Black and all of your people.
Y'all don't do that. Don't do that.
That's right.
Don't do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not black, you're 24 karat gold.
Larry, you're going to heaven for this, not anytime soon.
Let me pray. Father, thank you for such marvelous people. Thank you that they have been given the opportunity to share themselves with others. You've gifted them in a special way. I thank you for their gift. Thank you for the opportunity of serving them back. Bless this food to their bodies, amen. Yeah. Oh, the books, as soon as we get the rest of the shots from Christmas, we will send you the rest of the shots to fill up the rest of your book. So that'll be after Christmas. And Jan Howard. Everybody said... Jan Howard mentioned something during the course of the show about a doll, and I BJ gave you one, but we also have a package for you here. Would you give that to Jan Howard over there? Now, if somebody else had mentioned a present during the course of the morning, would have tried to get that too, but I didn't hear any others. I was going to get around to a car. So this, Jan, we just were able to run out and get that. I think you'll enjoy it.
Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.